Okay, welcome back, everybody. Really pleased to be doing this again, Culture Your Creative. If you haven't seen or heard this so far, Culture Your Creative is a platform that hosts a conversation between myself, Luke Gledhill, and some incredible people that are doing amazing work at the top of the abilities of what they do. Hopefully that you'll be inspired by something you might hear from the conversation. I run a branding development agency called Just Up the Road, helping brands and companies develop their brand message and voice to the end customer or citizen. I also host the 21st Club think tank, which brings together people that do good and give back through social, spiritual, and environmental initiatives. So today I was a little bit nervous, and I'm also really excited because I have a very good friend of mine, Liz Hernandez. I'd like to welcome Liz on.
Hi there. Hi,
Hey,
Luke.
Liz.
How are you?
It's so good to see you. How are you?
It's great to see you. It's great to be connected in any way. I'm doing good. I feel like I'm finally finding my footing in this pandemic. And it's all because, of course, we're starting to hear good news across the globe, and I think that settles our soul a little bit, right?
Yes, definitely. And I want to start by saying thank you, Liz, because I know you're extremely busy with everything you do. So I really appreciate that you're giving me this time to have a conversation with you. Liz, you have also incredibly graced me with your time twice before at events that we've hosted and spoken on. But I'd really like to, if you give me a quick, brief overview about what you are currently doing, and then I'm going to go and ask some other questions about what led you there.
Of course. Well, first, I want to say thank you for always opening up space for me. I do it purely based on the person that you are, Luke. You are a person of just beautiful energy, and it's really your character. That's why I say yes every single time, because I see the good that you're trying to put out into the world and the way you interact with other human beings, and it's inspiring to watch.
Wow, I'm blessed. I don't know what to say, but thank you so much for that.
Yeah, absolutely. So what am I working on currently as far as personal or professional?
Well, just give us a brief overview about what it is that you currently do.
So I created a company called Wordiful, which stands for Words Are Powerful. And it started off as a video series. I would take one word and do a 60-second video around that word, talking about, because I believe words are powerful. So if I took the word happiness, it was what was I learning about that word? So for me, I realized that happiness is an inside job, and it's not a final destination, but it's an everyday decision, and you have to work at that decision every single day. So really what I was trying to do was, when I first started the company, was to create connection, because I feel that when we share our stories, that is our superpower, because in it is vulnerability, is relatability, is where we find the connection, that we are very similar. We're not much different from one another. And there's only a degree of emotions that we feel as humans. And chances are we've all felt the same ones.
Sure.
So really what I was trying to do was connect with an audience through these words, but to also use my life as a lesson and a roadmap for people who feel a little bit lost and are trying to find their way, or don't feel seen or feel alone. And I wanted to be able to communicate that you're not alone. Sometimes we see people who, because I started in radio and I was in television, people assume you don't have problems or you haven't been through things. And we've all been through, uh, different heartaches and different struggles or hurdles in life. And yeah, and it's simply also about how powerful those, not only those words and lessons are, but just what a gift it is to be able to communicate. At the time that I started this passion project, because it started off as a passion project, my mother was diagnosed with dementia, Alzheimer's, and with that came aphasia, where she started to lose her words. And I just thought, you know, with how my parents raised me, which was, they spoke very lovingly to me, but also, my father was he was stern in a loving way, where he wanted me to take serious life. He used to tell me, you can be anything you want to be, you can do anything you want to be, take advantage of that. And so that was the messaging I heard at home. And then my mother was a little softer with, she would just tell me how loved I was and how I shouldn't be afraid of anything. And so when I combined the messaging I grew up with, combined with, you find your own way in life. I was very much influenced by the 4 agreements. And the first agreement is be impeccable with your word, and how just that alone can change the trajectory of our life. Because it's not just being impeccable with how we speak out into the world, but how we speak to ourselves. And that can change everything.
Yeah.
So you take all these ingredients and wanting to build community. And not only did it start as a live video, 60-second videos, and I turned it into live events where we could actually come together as a community and share our stories.
I think that, first of all, there were so many words going through my mind as you were talking then, Liz. And one that really stuck out was empowering, and how empowering you are with everything that you do. And I'd like to unpack Wordful a bit more, and we will in this conversation, but you also jumped ahead. I was going to ask you about the book, The 4 Agreements, because you and I have both connected about that on every time we have a conversation. It's such an incredible book. And just the power of everything in that book as well. There's a lot, I've said this a lot in conversations recently, the way society and structure is set up, there's a lot of white noise, and the white noise is blocking out true potential of what everybody has inside of them. And I love to have conversations with people like you, because you are able to hone in and believe in yourself first and foremost, and give yourself the opportunity to be the person that you can be. And that's truly inspiring, because I see it. You bring together a community of people that don't believe in themselves because society structures tells them not to. And I think it's so important, the work that you do with Wordiful. I'm not really sure where I was going with that. I just wanted to make that a point to get that across.
Well, thank you. And getting back to the 4 agreements, the reason why I'm such an advocate of this book, and I mean, this book has changed so many lives, so just Don Miguel Ruiz he's a spiritual leader of our generation. And he just said, even if you forgot the other 3 agreements, if you just be impeccable with your word, you can change this lifetime that you're spending from hell to heaven. I mean, it's that simple. Because think about, if you really think and you just unpack that agreement just a little bit, if you never spoke badly about yourself, think about what that would do for your self-love and your self-confidence. If you never spoke awful to the people that you love and are around you, think about how that would change your relationships if you communicated in a way that was loving and thoughtful and compassionate. If you didn't speak horribly about, even if you were judging the way our world leaders are running the country, even if you were judging the way a company maybe doesn't do things the way you want, because the only thing that happens when we speak negatively is we poison ourselves. So I'm still learning that. I'm still, that's one thing I always hope that comes across anytime I do an episode, is I never want to be on a soapbox telling people how to live their lives. I'm just trying to explain what I've been through and realize that I am still the student and I am still learning. I'm going to be learning for the rest of my life. And hopefully I can just explain to someone watching that this happened to me and here's where I found my silver lining. And I encourage you to look in this area, because it's taught me a lot.
Yeah, I think that's so important. Everything you said just then is so important. Liz, before we go a bit further, because we can get quite deep with this, give me a bit of backstory. You mentioned briefly earlier, what led you before even Wordiful was a passion project? Just tell us a bit about what you were doing before then.
So before Wordful was born, I had a background in radio. I did an internship in college, and I didn't take it very seriously. It was just to fulfill some school credits, and it was one of those things. I went on a first date with radio, and I fell in love. And this internship meant more to me. That's why it's so important. You know, I tell young college kids, do internships, because you never know what it's going to reveal to you, where it's going to take you, who you're going to meet. So that really changed my life and the trajectory of where I thought I wanted my career to go. I was originally, I had my eyes set on becoming a child psychologist. So I ended up double majoring. And it's great that I did, because psychology has now played a huge role in what I'm doing. It's always kind of been my first love, just human behavior and why we do the things we do and why we behave the way we behave. I've always been very intrigued by that. And so when I combine that with communication, I love to conversate and ask questions and find out the mechanics behind why does, you know, Luke feel the way he feels. And so when I did the internship, I ended up getting a job, and that job ended up leading me to Power 106 in LA, where I co-hosted a morning show for 10 years. And then radio took me to television. And when I got into primetime television, or when I landed in primetime television, I finally made it to the big tops. I was on Channel 4. And within that month that I was hired, my mother was diagnosed with dementia. And I realized that, and again, I'm a deep spiritual person. You know, I think very deeply about the things of why things happen in my life. And I really truly believe that radio was my schooling. It was an opportunity for me to, one, learn about the importance of connection, to also learn how to be a good communicator. It was also, and then once I got to television, that was teaching me how to, one, work in front of the camera, but also to understand what's my message out into the world. Because it, you know, it's really easy to get caught up in the, this feels so good because it's ego serving, right? I'm on primetime television and I get my hair and makeup done and people can see me across the, you know, the globe, really. But what am I putting out into the world? And I had to start asking myself those questions, especially when my creator, my mother, is now losing her words. And I cannot be careless with mine.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so how Wordiful, one of the elements of how Wordiful was created.
I mean, that is truly incredible. I actually was going to ask you whether there was a moment that sparked Wordiful, but I think you really embodied everything through what you just mentioned with your mother and dementia. I mean, I can understand and relate to that as well. It wasn't directly a family member of myself, but my wife's mother went through the same thing, and I saw the process and the degradation of what happens. And I can relate to everything you just mentioned about words, because she had no control over it. She had
Yeah.
no control over the frequency of it and what that meant, because it disappeared and it was slowly disappearing further. Talk to me about, well, actually, there was some great quotes that I read from you, which I'd really love you to expand on.
Sure.
Our thoughts and words from yesterday are what we make. Oh, sorry. Our thoughts and words from yesterday are what make up our lives today.
100%. So if you want to expand on that, you know, everything we say is an affirmation, whether we realize it or not. And I'm talking about internally and externally. So what have you been telling yourself for the past 10 years? If you tell yourself, I can't have a job like that. I can't date someone like that. I can't own a car like that. I can never be as deep as that. You're affirming that to yourself every single day. And then guess what? In 5 years, you won't have any of that. But if you say to yourself every single day, I am talented. I am worthy of this job. I am worthy of this type of person. I am worthy of whatever it is that you aspire to. You have to reaffirm it and then work at it. And when that's why they say have a 5-year plan. Within 5 years, you're going to start seeing your words manifest, because everything is energy, including our words.
Well, just to elaborate on that, everything is energy. What you are telling yourself internally is creating feelings and emotions, and then those feelings and emotions become physical and actions. And so really it does start with the words, as you said,
100%.
because
No, go ahead.
if you start to say the wrong things to yourself, the wrong feelings arise, you're creating the wrong neural path and networks that are firing and wiring together, and you end up making the wrong decisions, whether that is something as small as the wrong food to eat. I can never be that skinny or look that good, so you eat the wrong food, or whatever that can be. It kind of leads down the wrong road.
Well, I'm glad you're saying all of this because I didn't want to get too scientific or too deep too fast, but it's absolutely correct because the brain, you have to remember that we're always the awareness, we're always in control. And the brain simply waits for our command. So if we tell the brain, yes, I can never be this, the brain starts picking up on cues in the world that affirm whatever messaging you're giving to it. And again, on another level, it's the synapses in our brains too. The brain likes to conserve energy because it's trying to use it for all the other mechanisms that we have to do throughout the day. So if every day I'm complaining, like one thought of a complaint, say if I'm complaining, oh, my Wi-Fi is horrible. So my brain sends the thought over and it's the synapses linked together and, make a little spark. And if I'm like thinking this thought over and over again, how bad it is, I need a computer, oh, my Wi-Fi, oh, this, and this. What happens is that synapses starts to pull the other thought closer together so it doesn't have to travel across the brain, which makes it easier to have that same complaint over and over and over again. You are strengthening your complaint muscle. And that's why I write in a gratitude journal every day, because when we practice gratitude, it strengthens that muscle. We wire our brain to start thinking of things that are easier for us to notice, to be grateful for. And so when something bad does happen, our bounce back rate becomes that much quicker. Does that make sense?
100%. No, it does, because I read so much about this, but the way you just explained it makes it even clearer in a way that for your mind or your brain to do less, it makes those come together quicker, and then
It makes it easier to have the same thought.
Yeah,
All of a sudden you're wondering, like, why am I on this hamster wheel of negativity? And then why do I feel bad? Well, your feelings are feedback for what you are thinking.
And then the other thing as well is once you are down that route, going down that direction, your body then becomes addicted to what is released from those feelings, and so you're then addicted to those thoughts and those feelings.
Absolutely.
And I think it's so important that you mentioned about writing a gratitude journal, because now I'll give you a great example. I'm actually really good at falling asleep. I run a lot every day, and just through meditation or whatever it is, I know that when I go to bed, within 15, 20 minutes, I'm
Knock
out.
out. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But at the times when I'm not, and I'm lying there, because I used to do this, you can start finding yourself thinking, I can't sleep, I'm going to be really tired tomorrow, I can't be tired tomorrow, I've got so much on tomorrow. And then it gets worse and worse and worse, and you can't fall asleep. A great example is start thinking about everything that you're grateful for. I am grateful for this, I am grateful for that. And I promise you, every time I get to maybe 5 maximum, and I'm asleep immediately. So I'm not quite sure how that works, but it works.
Another great exercise too is setting an intention for your day, for the next day, because you are going to sleep on that thought for 8 hours.
I love that. Yeah, that's really strong. Something else I wanted to ask that I had read that you'd written. Sometimes we throw out words and give no real thought to the power of what we're saying.
So think about something someone has told you that has scarred you, that has really changed maybe the way you think about yourself. Someone could have just said something and they had no real understanding of how that was going to affect you, maybe good or bad. And to me, that's really where it all begins, is sometimes we say things to ourselves or even to other people about ourselves jokingly, like, oh, I could never do that or get that person or have that kind of life. And the brain is always eavesdropping on the conversations we're having internally and externally. And so we have to be really mindful of how we use our word. Don Miguel Ruiz again says, do not use your word against yourself. So for me, I've taken that literal. Don't use the word against yourself, against other people. And it's a really hard commandment to follow. But I feel like once we do, we change the energy of our lives.
Well, I think it's important what you just said, Liz, because, and it goes back to something you said earlier, it's very easy to quickly judge people in your own mind because of an action they're doing or what they're doing. But what we must remember is that everybody is trying to do the best they can with what they currently have. And when it comes to words, it's the same. And that goes back to Don Miguel Ruiz's book. If someone says something that, one of the agreements is to not take things personally.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Personal, yeah.
And so that is the same thing. If somebody says something flippantly to me about something, the first thing to do is to catch it and not to take it personally, but then to also try to believe or understand where they are coming from. Because they are coming from a completely different place from where you are right now. And what led them to that point, that moment they said those things to you, is totally different. And you can't even begin to understand. Just try to, be that person for a moment.
Right. Well, and I think the other thing too is, we have to realize that when someone is judging us, or when we're judging somebody else, it's just revealing an unhealed part in us. It's really about us. It's never about the other person. So if I'm sitting here judging somebody's outfit, if I'm judging the way they talk, the way they walk, how they eat, if they exercise, if they don't, what they buy, I mean, the list goes on. We're so good at judging. What I'm really revealing is about myself.
Yeah.
It's where do I have the wounds that this is bothering me? And so that's a really good exercise to stop yourself when you want to be judgmental and to think, where is there pain inside of me that needs healing? And I think the other part too about we say things and we don't give any meaning to them. It's just catching yourself. Even, one of my least favorite words besides, I never use the word hate, but I don't like the word should, because we do a lot of shoulding. I should work out. I should eat better. I should call this person. And should is to me is a shame word. We're just adding guilt to our lives. And there's no joy in guilt.
So, because you've said that, Liz, can you give me an example or a way that we can catch ourselves? Is there something that you can do that helps you to be able to catch yourself in the moment when you're telling yourself these words or even about to say those words to somebody else?
It's to be mindful of your words. It's that simple, but that difficult. It's the same way we're mindful about what we put in our mouths, right? And the more you practice it, the better you become. Everything takes practice. I mean, for a long time, I was trying to get rid of the word like, especially, I don't know, I mean, I shouldn't say especially here in Los Angeles, but I think it's a universal word that becomes a crutch for a lot of people. People love to use the word like. So then and then I was like, and then she was like, and someone pointed it out to me that I used it a lot. And at first it aggravated me because they would correct me every time, but they were trying to do it so much that I would kind of get aggravated. But then I thought, you know what? They're right. Why am I using this word? Why can't I be confident enough to take a pause and to think about what it is I want to say so I can be more potent with my message so that it doesn't get diluted with all these filler words. And when I was able to just look at that small exercise, I was able to look at even the bigger picture of, if I feel bad right now, if I'm standing in the mirror and I don't feel confident I have to ask myself, why is that? Well, what is it that I'm telling myself? Is it because I'm saying, you look tired? You look like you haven't had sleep. You look like you've been eating too much pizza. You look, you have to hear what that messaging is to yourself and say, no, not today. Today, I'm going to look in the mirror and I'm going to say, I love you. I got your back. You're doing the best you can. And you know that if that's the truth.
Yeah, I think that's really empowering, Liz. It truly is. I think I'm very grateful for, I can remember my parents always telling me to think before I speak. And obviously that doesn't happen all the time, but if you can just catch yourself for a second, maybe take a breath and allow that to sink in before you say what you originally thought, and that's probably going to change.
And like I said, Luke, it takes a lot of practice. One thing I just learned in this past year, because so many people, you get kind of caught up in what people label you as, unintentionally sometimes. So because of Wordiful, I have a lot of young women that'll come to me and they ask for advice. And what I noticed was that was starting to bleed into my friendships. So my girlfriends would come to confide in me, and instead of just being a good listener, I wanted to impose my advice. And what I realized is I was not being a good friend.
Right.
And so instead of saying, even if I felt I knew what was best for them, maybe that's not what they want. Maybe they just want to be heard and be seen. And that's how you can be compassionate. So that's a skill set that I've really been trying to hone in on, is don't put in your 2 cents unless it's asked. Just be a good listener.
Yeah, I mean, that's really powerful. And I can feel like I'm right now learning from the things you're saying to me, because that is true. I know myself, it's very easy to go around telling people what you think is best for them because it works for you. But I think you're so correct in saying just to be a listener, just to listen.
Absolutely.
And if you are asked for advice, then you can perhaps give some advice.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I'm learning, because what ends up happening is I end up shooting on my friends. You
Right.
should do this, you should do that. And I don't want to be a shooter.
Should be a curse word.
It's a shame word. So just remember, anytime you want to should yourself or should somebody, remember that you're probably shaming yourself or you're shaming them.
Yeah, yeah, that's so strong. I watched your most recent YouTube video, Liz, and found it really powerful. The your YouTube video called Peace, and you mentioned about letting go of things, people, and energy.
Mm.
Is that something that you've recently found to be empowering for yourself?
Extremely, because there are sometimes people in our lives who we feel we can't live without, but we're almost addicted, like you were saying, like how we get addicted to thinking negatively. We can get addicted to the trauma bonding that we have with somebody. It's like that hit of drama that almost entices us, but we're not even aware of it. Or we just think that, oh my God, if I let them go, my life is over. Or I can't live without this friend, or I can't live without this ex, or I can't live without, even sometimes it could be a family member. And we just have, we've given away so much of our power. And especially if it's causing us heartache and it's causing us uh, just uneasy, it's disturbing our peace. And sometimes we just have to cut those ties and realize that doesn't mean I don't wish you well. It doesn't mean I don't love you. It just means, a good friend, grief expert David Kessler told me, sometimes I love you is also good, the word goodbye. We can also say I love you by saying goodbye. Something like that. I'm probably slaughtering his quote, but when he said that to me, it resonated, and I thought, you can you who I can't live without, who I can't live without is me. I need myself to be whole. I need to be at peace.
Yeah, I think, I mean, everything you just said was making me think that everything is energy, right? Everything is energy. And if you start your day with giving too much of your energy away, whether that's looking at emails straight away or looking on social media straight away. You're giving small doses of your own energy away. And when it comes to bigger things, whether it's friends or family or just anything like that, where there's resistance, you're giving a lot of your energy away. And like you said, you're not able to be full yourself. And I find that if I can be stronger with more energy for myself, then I can be stronger for my wife, for anything she's going through, or I can be stronger for a client that I work with or a friend that I think it's so important to focus on really where your energy is and what you're doing with it, almost as if it's your currency, right?
100%. There's nothing more valuable than your mindset, than the energy you feel day to day. That's why, again, to go back to the 4 agreements, Don Miguel Ruiz says we expend 50% of our energy, if not more, as soon as we wake up to make those agreements with ourselves that we've been having for years. We wake up and we agree to, I'm this person, this is what I stand for, this is what I believe in, this is, how I talk, whatever it is. That's why he calls it the 4. Everything that we agree to, half of our energy is already gone because we have to agree to these things that aren't usually positive things. It's like these assigned roles that we have in our everyday life. And so I think the more we can release ourselves from the attachments of the world, of things that we think we need and can't live without. And I feel like that's what quarantine is really teaching us. It's about the essentials. It's about what is really important. It's our family, it's food, it's comfort. It's not your Louis Vuitton bag hanging in the closet. It's not some designer brand or even your nice car. It's about community. It's about being there for one another. And that to me is what is really fundamentally at the layers of all of this, of how we're treating our planet. We have to really look and ask ourselves, because we're just visitors here. When we die, this planet's still going to be here. And we have to be really thoughtful in how we care for Mother Earth. But not to go off track too much here, but again, it's what agreements are you making with yourself? And are those agreements causing you joy or are they causing you pain? And if you can unlatch yourself from the agreements that are causing you pain, the freer you are going to feel.
Yeah, I think everything you just said then, Liz, was incredible, and it evoked so many emotions and thoughts in my mind. One thing in particular, when you mentioned about what we actually need or what we truly miss right now, and you mentioned community. So I host a running club in Los Angeles, as you know, with Dee, and that has been the biggest hole in my life during this time. And I know that it's not just me, because so many of the community have been reaching out because they miss the connection. They miss that connection with everybody else and through running. And it's so powerful to know that it's not eating at your favorite restaurant or it's not something else. It's actually really the things that truly mean the most that we miss.
Yeah, we thrive as human beings. We thrive and survive off of human connection. We need touch. We need to be around each other. We need that energy. That's where it's part of our survival.
Yeah, I
There's
totally believe
there's
in that.
nothing in science that says a new pair of shoes is going to make me live an extra year.
No, no.
But community will.
And there was something else you said before as well, and it made me think of our good friend Kevion. He always says that where your thoughts go, your energy flows. Did I say that right?
Yeah, where your thoughts go, energy flows. Uh-huh.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that ties into everything that you've been saying with the words you tell yourself, your thoughts, and then your energy follows.
Absolutely. Think about, I always give the example, like say you're in your house and you're thinking about, I'm hungry, I want to eat something, and you're fixated on that, right? Or maybe you're fixated on a sensation or a feeling. Maybe you're feeling sad and you keep fixating on how bad you feel. And then suddenly you hear your car window get smashed and the alarm goes off. And your attention gets diverted and you're like, oh, my car, what's going on? Who's breaking into it? You're not thinking about what you want to eat anymore, or how sad you feel. You're thinking about what's going on down at your car. And that's how the brain works. It's you have to be able to instruct the brain where that attention goes, because that's where your energy will flow. And it takes work. It's not, Luke, it's not something that you can just sit back and hope and pray for. Through meditation, you can, because that's a really great way of gaining control over your thoughts. Not gaining control, but being aware of what you're thinking and learning how to tame the brain. But if we could all just understand that we are the ones, we don't serve the brain serves us. And we have to be willing to take back that control. And we take back that control through affirmations, through meditation, through self-talk.
I was actually going to ask you next, Liz, you've mentioned gratitude practice, you've mentioned affirmations, and you've mentioned meditation. Is there anything else, if somebody's watching or listening now to this, that you can say or offer them some small piece of advice that they could implement in their day or their routine that can really help them move on into the right direction?
Something that I've been doing for 10 years is writing in a gratitude journal. It's actually right here on my desk. I keep it right here.
I love that.
I would recommend writing 3 things that you're grateful for every morning or at night if you want to, as long as you make it a ritual for 30 days. And after 30 days, if you don't feel a shift in your thinking and in how you feel, I promise that you will. I mean, and there's science that backs it up. You can Google it if you want, but it helps our immune system. It helps our coping skills. It helps our anxiety. It helps our stress, and it helps us refocus our energy. Again, our energy goes where our thought, where our thoughts go, energy flows. It helps redirect us when something does go wrong. It's like, oh, I was driving to the grocery store and I got a flat tire. But I wrote in my gratitude journal this morning that I'm grateful I have a car. Or, oh, I have anxiety about walking into the grocery store. Oh, yeah, but I wrote this morning that I'm grateful that I have the means to buy groceries. So
That's so important.
That's what gratitude does. It helps us recognize other things in our life that, well, we can be grateful for. And the more you write it, the more you're able to recognize what there is to be grateful for.
That's so powerful. That really is. I do it, not consistently enough, but now you've said it, I will. Definitely morning and night. Definitely.
And you don't want it to be a chore. That's one thing I will say. You want it to really come, because some people say, oh, I'm running out of things to write to be grateful for. And it's like, don't make it so hard on yourself. Write that you're grateful that you had a pillow to sleep, because everything in our life can disappear. Mm-hmm. If you can't think of anything to be grateful for, write that you're grateful for that you have a pen in your hand and that you're able to, your brain can make sense of your words. Because, as I experienced firsthand, I watched my mom not be able to dress herself, not be able to order off a menu, not be able to use her utensils. I am so grateful every time I'm able to make decisions for myself, because I've seen that taken away from someone. So there's always something to be grateful for.
Yeah, that's so true. That really is so true. I'm really interested to know, you have some incredible friends. We spoke very briefly before this conversation about InQ and the amazing work that he does through spoken word poetry. I mean, truly amazing. If anybody hasn't seen or heard his work, I really advocate you to go and listen to his work. Is there anybody that comes to your mind that you believe is really leading the way as well in kind of a similar process to yourself that other people could learn from?
I mean, there's so many people, whether they're, of this generation or dead, that have passed on before us. That's what the beauty of books are all about. I mean, that's where I learn the majority of what I know is being hungry for the information. NQ is one of those people that he's just wide awake. And the reason he's wide awake is because he does the work. And um, he's very just, one of the things I learned from him is he said one time, meditation for me is a non-negotiable. He has meditated every day for the past 4 years. And when you speak to him, it shows.
Yeah.
It's just one of those people. He's so real, he's so authentic, and he's so talented. Some other people that I look to, of course, everyone goes to Oprah. Oprah's so great at teaching us life lessons on Super Soul Sunday. But I really love the Gary Zukovs of the world, and the Dr. Wayne Dyers, and the Don Miguel Ruiz, and the Eckhart Tolles. I mean, really look at their work and study it if you are intrigued by human behavior and soul work, because they're phenomenal. And I know there's the Brene Browns. Gosh, she's incredible. There's a lot of people that, like I said, they've really put in the hard work. And a lot of times we make it harder on ourselves when people have already, the same way people can watch Wordiful and say, oh, I maybe did not see that lesson in there. My heartbreak, luckily, hopefully helped deteriorate, not deteriorate, helped lighten the load a little bit. I guess what I'm trying to say is that these people have studied and done the work and are just giving it to us for $19.99 in a book, where hopefully it'll help us think a little differently, right? And so, yeah, that answered your question.
It did, definitely. It did. And everybody you mentioned has done incredible work and is still doing incredible work. Liz, I asked you this before we started the conversation, and I hope you can expand more on it. What does the future look like for Wordiful?
Well, currently I'm working on a book, which is really exciting. It's in its final stages, and I couldn't be more proud and excited. And I just really hope it can be used as a tool. And so that's really exciting. And I just finished affirmation cards. So I know a lot of people have trouble writing their own affirmations. So I've written a 52 card deck, and there's an affirmation for everything. Wow. For health, for confidence, body image, for aging, for relationships, for judgment, for learning, whatever it is, I wrote an affirmation for it. So I'm just so excited. Obviously with quarantine, a lot of the production places have been shut down. So I'm hoping that they'll be ready in about 2 to 3 months.
Wow. Wow. I can't wait to see the cards and certainly to read the book.
Thank you.
Really, when you told me about it, it just made complete sense, because I know you'll be able to reach far more people than what you've been able to when you've finished the book.
Thank you, Luke.
As we're wrapping this up, Liz, can you tell me where people can find out more about you and Wordiful?
Absolutely. So there's the website, which is wordiful.com. And then across all channels, Instagram is Wordaful, WORDAFUL. So I basically took words are powerful and I mushed it all together. And it's like, again, it's on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. And then if you can just find me, and I'm the link to Wordiful as well. And it's just at Liz Hernandez.
So that's Wordful, WORDAFUL.
Correct.
Perfect. Liz, you are truly inspiring. You provide and have given me energy through this conversation. And I know I'm going to go on and add some new additions to my routine from what you've said. So I want to truly thank you for your time and for your energy, because it's incredible.
Thank you. I feel the same way about you, Luke. I think what you're doing, the way you're connecting people, the way you're having these thoughtful conversations is really inspiring. And, I hope I can just be a reminder to speak kindly to yourself and to others.
You definitely are, Liz. You definitely are. And I can't wait to see you in real life.
Oh, same here. We'll hug it out.
Definitely. Thank you again, Liz. I really appreciate your time.
I appreciate you, Luke.
Take care.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Wow, what do I say? Liz is incredible. She is an inspiring human being. I can't thank her enough. If you haven't seen Wordiful or any of the work that she's done, please go and look at wordiful.com. She has some incredible video series that you can find on YouTube as well, talking about the power of words. Thank you all for joining. We'll have some more guests next week. Thank you, Liz.
Thank